Emisión.net.
Hello again and welcome to Letter from England, broadcasting for the Spanish Evangelical Alliance and AC Press. In a week in which the new wave of Latin American missionaries to England has been highlighted, it's interesting to report on a very unusual find in southern Spain, which goes back to the time when English missionaries were actually going abroad. Of course, that's still happening. But we're talking about a period when British missionaries, and English ones in particular, spread the gospel of Jesus Christ right across the world. And it all came about, this discovery that is, through the collapse of a path in the English cemetery in Málaga. A small hole appeared and uncovered a crypt in which William Mark, the first British Consul-General to Málaga, and his family are buried. They were evangelical Christians who died in the very Catholic Spain of the mid-19th century. William Mark himself died in 1849. But before the English cemetery was built, evangelicals who died in the Málaga region, as in the rest of Spain indeed, ended up buried outside the walls. In Málaga, they ended up buried vertically, right next to the shore, with the danger that in time the waves would expose the remains to view. Even this, though, was a special privilege, in inverted commas, granted by the then Spanish king. The discovery of the Consul-General's grave was made purely by chance. A small hole appeared in the path which leads to the small cemetery chapel. John Halliburne, one of the volunteers who looks after the cemetery, didn't think much of it. It had opened up 3 weeks before, and he was going to mend it. Then, just 6 days ago, something unexpected happened. The hole suddenly became much larger. Part of the path had collapsed and revealed steps going down to a crypt, which, on investigation, was seen to contain 6 recesses and 8 bodies. All of them members of William Mark's family. Mark himself was the first British Consul-General to Málaga and the person responsible for creating a Protestant cemetery in the city. The discovery came as a great surprise to the British volunteers who tend the cemetery, that is. The crypt is situated right underneath an obelisk dedicated to Mark and where it is thought his remains lay. However, no one expected such a large tomb. What will happen to the grave is as yet not known, as the current Consul-General is away, to be shown the amazing discovery upon his return. But William Mark served in the Royal Navy under the orders of Admiral Horatio Nelson, and something grander certainly ought to be in store for his remains. A plaque commemorates his naval service and his participation in acts of war. It also says that the Spanish king gave the land for the cemetery on the request of William Mark. Its purpose was to offer a decent Christian burial to British citizens and those of other nations who were denied such by the belligerent Catholic authorities of the day. Protestants and other non-Catholics, atheists, and those who committed suicide were not allowed burial in Catholic cemeteries and were dumped in unmarked graves outside. Well, Halliburne has started to remove these stones and earth which covered the entrance to the crypt, protecting it from the elements with some metal sheeting. John Carswell, another Englishman enamoured of Andalusia, and who, with his wife, runs a shop at the cemetery entrance, has studied Mark's family tree to discover that those buried with him are some of his closest relatives. William Mark's grave is in the upper part of the crypt with the Latin inscription, "Hic jacet, here lies," on a marble gravestone. The stone also has his dates sculpted on, 1782 to 1849. Next to him lie the remains of his wife, Emma Mark, 1788 to 1850, and the grandson, William Charles, who died a day after being born in 1855. The grave also houses the mortal remains of 3 of the Consul-General's children: Ellen, 1823 to 1899, John, 1825 to 1881, and William Penrose Mark, who took over the consulate duties from his father and died at the age of 61 in 1872. He is buried along with his own son, who died at the age of 3 months in 1862. And the other person buried there is John's wife, Elizabeth, who died in 1875. A fascinating find, and just opening a window on a fascinating period of history as well. Thank you for listening to Letter from England, broadcasting at emission.net. Goodbye for now.
Emisión.net